What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. I've got some updates on the Giza Pyramid discovery, right? So today we're going to jump into some new photos that have been released of the scans that they took, as well as Jay Anderson from Project Unity, who made a video about addressing some of the critiques of, this discovery, right? And I've got some very, very exciting news about Jay Anderson from Project Unity that I'll get into in just a moment.
Wow, so there has been a lot of surprise and shock and skepticism, all of which is understandable in relationship to the Khafre project and the claimed findings on the Giza Plateau and the Khafre Pyramid regarding these substructural engineering components that go deep into the ground and potentially across the Giza Plateau in general. Like I said, a lot of skepticism, and I was very excited when these claims first came out. That video has since gone extremely viral, even featuring on Joe Rogan.
You see, Jay was one of the first people to break this story, and he did get featured on Joe Rogan, which I'm sure was a very, very cool moment.
Dun, dun, dun. I love the music. And geometry, so you know it's real.
You got to appreciate the dramatic intro.
Project Unity.
What has just been announced in relation to the pyramids at the Giza Plateau and the plateau itself is so incredible, so awe-inspiring and narrative-shattering that I have been sitting here for the last hour trying to wrap my head around the implications of what we were just told. So this is pretty much breaking news because the new findings were announced on the 16th of March at a press conference held by the team who were studying the Great Pyramid of Giza with a non-invasive technology that was first developed by Filippo Bionde and Corrado Malanga called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography.
Fuck, that's a mouthful.
This was used to explore the internal
Chiropractor
structure
talk.
of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And this method leverages the analysis of micro movements typically generated by background seismic activity to achieve a high resolution full 3D tomographic imagery of the pyramid's interior and subsurface components. The recent findings from deploying this technology are nothing short of mind-blowing, because what's been discovered is that there are huge structures coming down from the base of the pyramid deep into the bedrock, in fact over 600 meters deep, which then connects to structures that extend up to 2 kilometers below the surface of the ground. 2 kilometers. Massive internal structures connected to the base of the pyramid and extending deep, deep down. This is what we know so far.
Let's kind of look at these brand new images that have just been released, right? You can see them here on the screen. I'll be honest, I'm not an expert. I don't really understand these images entirely, but I guess they claim to show more of these quote unquote coils, again, under the Giza Pyramid that go, a couple kilometers, y'all, right? Like these huge structures. There's so much debate going on about all of this right now. And I'll put a link in the description for these photos so you can take a closer look if you want. Now, let's get to these critiques that have been made about this discovery under the Pyramid of Giza.
I'm also going to highlight some of the critiques that have been going on and why they may not hold up to scrutiny in the face of the kind of technology that's being deployed here. So there's been a lot of critiques, and I mean a lot of critiques, including coming from the mainstream media and the mainstream academic sector, about direct EM penetration and ground penetrating radar, how there is no ground penetrating radar that can go 2 kilometers into the rock. And that's absolutely right. But that's not what's being claimed by the team. The team is not claiming that SAR technology, which stands for synthetic aperture radar, they're not claiming that SAR is penetrating 2 kilometers of rock. Instead, their method proposes that SAR technology is detecting secondary surface deformations caused by deep mechanical resonance, not direct EM wave reflections, right? So they're picking up on resonances coming from underground structures and measuring that acoustic resonance, that reverberation. It's not penetrating deep into the ground. It's penetrating quite shallow into the ground, which is typical for these systems, picks up on acoustic and reverberatory energy and uses that to model what could be underneath the ground, causing these reverberations. SAR technology already measures surface deformations within millimeter scale precision using interferometric techniques, also known as INSAR. That's how we monitor earthquake zones and volcanic inflation. If there were deep voids beneath the Giza Plateau, which are resonating, the surface could experience these subtle periodic displacements, like detectable energy that would be picked up through the SAR technology. Through the phase-sensitive Doppler processing. So SAR doesn't actually need to penetrate the rock directly, it just needs to detect surface effects caused by subsurface resonance, right? So anything that's below ground, that's a large structure, especially, and we're going to get into the reasons why the Giza Plateau might be one of the most interesting places in the entire world to find this type of anomalies and structures. So when they're picking up on these reverberations, it's being caused by structures below ground that are transmitting this reverberatory energy up to the surface. The satellite scans the surface, not the depth, and picks up on the reverberation, which it's able to model. It's able to figure out through very, complex computational algorithms, the model of what exactly is reverberating under the ground.
Now, I don't know about you, but I am confused as hell. Which is why I spoke earlier about exciting news about Jay Anderson here from Project Unity. Well, I reached out to him on Twitter, put out a tweet, hoping he would respond, and he did. He is coming on Vetted, y'all. So I'm going to do an interview with him, and we're going to break down this whole Giza Pyramid discovery and the critiques of this and that, everything. We'll do a nice deep dive interview about these discoveries, and I cannot wait to do that. So that will be very, very soon. We'll probably record this weekend or early next week. So it will be out next week, no problem. And we'll do a big deep dive on this. So I'm very excited about that because there's just a lot of stuff I don't really understand what's going on. And Jay has a lot of knowledge just about, Egyptian, I don't know, ancient mysteries. I don't know how else to describe it, right? He's been there, in fact, to the pyramid himself, right? But he just, one of the people to break this story and get it out there, and I just think it's well worth having him on and diving deep, so I cannot wait to do that. Now, let's get back to a little bit more about some of these critiques of the pyramid. Hopefully some of y'all are understanding what's going on. I mean, I'm kind of getting the gist of it, but I'm missing some of the nuance, which I hope Jay can provide when he comes on the show.
The Giza Plateau specifically is geophysically unique. Limestone and granite are known for their acoustic and piezoelectric properties. Limestone and granite make up the majority of the Giza Plateau. Now, granite contains high quartz content, which responds to mechanical stress by generating electric fields, which is also known as piezoelectric effects. Piezoelectric, naturally induced, naturally created electricity. Resonant voids underground within the Giza Plateau could actually stimulate mechanical stress in these piezoelectric geoenergetic rocks, these piezoelectric materials, limestone and granite, which would create these surface-coupled oscillations through the piezoelectric effect. Now, the pyramid's precise geometry could actually enhance wave reflection and standing wave formation, essentially acting as a mechanical amplifier for deep resonance. Are you still following me? In other words, Giza's geology and construction actually create the ideal conditions for deep mechanical resonance to couple into surface-level oscillations, which can then be picked up by the SAR technology. So this is actually really interesting because low-frequency seismic waves and standing resonant waves would survive potentially for kilometers underneath the ground, depending on the geological structure. So if there are deep voids that are in some way geometrically tuned to natural frequencies like Helmholtz resonators, they could sustain coherent resonant oscillations that transfer energy up to the surface. So the surface response could then be detectable as a consistent micro-Doppler shift in the SAR technology. Mechanical resonance propagating through dense rock via piezoelectric coupling bypasses a lot of the issues that a lot of the critiques are trying to come up with in regards to attenuation and scattering, which are problems faced by direct EM waves, but not with the Doppler technology being deployed through the SAR surface level scanning. This is all very, very interesting, and I won't pretend to be a technical wizard on a lot of this. I've been doing research, trying to understand the SAR technology, and I'm listening to the experts that are talking about this in relationship to the way in which this is being deployed on the Giza Plateau. It's very unique. It doesn't seem to be what a lot of the critics are assuming it to be, which is just a basic use of ground-penetrating radar and the assumption from the team that GPR can somehow go 2 kilometers underneath the earth and scan buildings with incredible accuracy. That's not the claim that's being made by the team. It's the subsurface acoustic resonance that's being picked up from these deep structures that is then coming up to the surface and being scanned by the SAR system. Okay, I hope you guys are all with.
Now, Jay made a great video on his YouTube, which I just clipped right in this video. I'll put a link to the full video. It's 30 minutes or so. You can catch up on all of it. There's a lot more nuance that he gets into. So if you want to go check that out. But basically, I think the gist of it is that people are a little confused on how they collected the data and how they're interpreting it. I think that's where it's getting lost, whether it be in translation or whatever, or, you know, something is happening there. And that's kind of where some of these questions are, right? Which undoubtedly people are going to have. And it's completely normal to be skeptical about it. But it's also completely normal to be open-minded to this and be like, whoa, what's going on? Let me hear a little bit more. Nothing wrong with that, right? Which is why we're going to have Jay on. We'll be able to have a nice conversation and ask some of these questions about what's going on, about this, right? So get a better understanding of it. So anyway, I'll put a link in the description. Go check out Jay's video and look forward to my interview with Jay, right? So, all right, vetters, let me know what you think in the comments. And I also want to give a shout out to Josh from Polarity. I recently did an interview on his channel, and I'll put a link in the description. Please go give it some love and check it out. I don't do a lot of interviews at all, in fact. So this is a great opportunity for me to go on and give a little background on myself, vetted, talk UAPs, UFOs. Honestly, it was a really great conversation. And if you're not following Josh from Polarity, you should be now. Great channel. Really enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.